So Formotus is the next one. Anybody here, can I see a show of hands, anybody here use InfoPath? InfoPath in SharePoint? Okay. So I personally love InfoPath. I think from a laptop, it's a great experience. From a desktop, great experience. From a tablet, great experience. From a device, it's a so-so experience. And so what Formotus does is they can actually take your InfoPath forms, they can skin them so they render on a device very nicely, and they can store those forms in the cloud. And the solution works that when I log into their solution on my device, it'll actually go up to the cloud, it'll check for the version of the form, and then I can fill out the data on my device. And then when I submit the data, it goes from the device to my SharePoint site. So Formotus hosts just the forms. They don't ever hold the data. The data goes from my device to the SharePoint site. So I thought what I could do is actually run through a real-time demo of what this solution looks like, because I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over here. So from my device, if I wanted to, let's say I'm a school inspector today, and I've got my InfoPath form. The school's created the form. They've submitted it to Formotus. Formotus has stored it up in the cloud. They've reskinned it, so it'll actually bring it down to my device here. I log into Formotus's solution, and now I've got the forms that are available to me. The cool thing about this is that it'll version these forms, so that if I'm an inspector, I don't necessarily have to worry about what version of the form am I using. I just click on the form, and I'm guaranteed that this is going to be the latest and greatest form with the latest data, the latest information. So hopefully this will work. I've had some problems with cell phone coverage in this room today. So we'll go ahead and fire up the form here. Give it a second. Come on. Okay, so it looks like it's working. So it's gone out. It's opened the form within their application. You can see that a lot of the InfoPath controls that you're familiar with are rendered here. And the great thing about this is they're rendered for the device. So I've got things like my date picker. I could click on my date. I could pick a date if I wanted to do that. It's got the dependent menus. So for example, if I pick Lake Washington, I'm going to have a set of schools based on Lake Washington versus if I pick Seattle, I'll have a different set of schools. I can tap on here and I can put in my conference room or my school room is GG. Go ahead and we'll click on the next. Oops. So then it goes to page 2. And the cool thing about Formotus also is that it really works with the hardware capabilities of the device. So for example, this device is GPS enabled. I know a lot of inspectors, they want to make sure that people are out doing their job, inspecting things, getting data, versus just out somewhere goofing off. So what I can do is I can actually work with the lat-long GPS information on my device. So if I wanted to, I could require that the school inspector click on refresh, and they'd actually capture the lat-long of where they're standing right now. So as a business user on the back end, I'm guaranteed that this person is at this school inspecting it versus like off at the casino or something here. So we go ahead and then click on next. The other piece of hardware that works really well with this solution is the camera. So for example, if I'm out at the school and I've got an issue or there's something, maybe something's not right, I can actually capture that with the camera on the device. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I can take a picture of the audience here. So I took a picture now. Click on that. Close that. And then I could actually click on that. And then I can insert my picture into the form. So now I've got a picture of the problem. And again, this is all using the InfoPath type controls. All this data is going to get submitted to the SharePoint site here in a second. So I'll go ahead and click on the next screen. And these are just standard radio buttons, InfoPath radio type buttons. So I'm going to click on a couple of those. And then we'll click on next. The last thing I want to do is when I'm at the site inspecting is I want to capture a signature. So I could click on edit. I could just sign this signature, click OK. And you can see it's got my signature now in the form. So now I've inspected the school, I've taken a picture of some problem areas, I've filled out the different questions, I've snapped my lat long so it knows that I was at the school as opposed to somewhere else. And then what I would do is I'd actually submit the form. And so again, it's asking me, do I want to submit the form? Yes. probably is not going to work so well because of the connectivity here. But the good thing is that there is an offline mechanism where if I don't have connectivity, let's say I'm in a building like this where the connectivity is not so great, it'll actually queue that up in an outbox, and so when I do have connectivity, it'll submit the form that way. So it looks like it's submitted. At that point, it would try to make a connection up to the site. So it'd take the data out of the form, submit it to SharePoint, and then the data's gone. So what that would look like then, I'm going to jump over to this screen here, is this is the SharePoint site where the forms are submitted. And what I'll do is I'll just show you an example of a previous form. So this is a form I took earlier today for my device. You can see that I've got everything in here. It's got my lat long. It's got the date. It's got everything that I filled out. It's got the picture. It's got my signature capture, all from the device. And then if I'm someone sitting behind the firewall, I've opened this up in InfoPath, I could actually click on Submit and then continue the workflow. So a very elegant solution, a really great way to get data from the field to a device to a SharePoint site.